those persons have invested in the Barbados Labour Party, and you need to wake up and rise up. All that you saw yesterday was an attempt to shut down discussion on the call-in programs about the cost of living. Zap those issues from the columns of the newspaper. Get it out of the mouths of Barbadians. Let people walk and say, oh, the government train. That's what they want. But it is too late. Understand that. So if you wake up and understand, you will send a clear and unambiguous message to this government that enough is enough, and that you will not accept any more from them, and that the repercussions for the small shopkeepers in this country are grave, and that you will stand up in support of the small shopkeepers. So I am saying to you tonight, take some time to reflect on what is happening in Barbados, your country. What is it about power and being in government that would have the politicians in the Barbados Labour Party to resort to every low trick possible to remain in power? You think it is for the sake of a job that is paying them less than the amount they would have been earning prior to going into politics? For example, those who were in private practice as lawyers and doctors. Why do you think they want to hold on to power? Do you really believe that Owen Arthur and Mia Motley and Mascoll and Liz Thompson and Kerry Simmons want to remain in office because of love of their country? And the answer to this raises serious questions, which I want to proffer to you tonight, and can only be answered by the introduction of integrity legislation in Barbados. They have wriggled around this issue, but I am announcing to you tonight that apart from the no confidence motion, I will be introducing in Parliament on Tuesday a resolution that deals with the introduction in Barbados of integrity legislation, a code of ethics and standards in public life for ministers, members of statutory boards, and directors of companies in which the Crown has 50% or more shares, freedom of information legislation that requires public authorities to answer questions about their performance, and an amendment to the Defamation Act in Barbados that allows people to express opinions. In this country, far too many Barbadians have evidence and are frightened as hell because of the defamation legislation. Journalists, people who call in on call-in programs, all of a sudden you hear blank on the radio. And freedom of expression, I am not saying that people should abuse it, but I am saying that people in public life should be subject to criticism. And Lord knows I have had a lot of it. And I have never ever, in the 20 years that I have been in public life, brought any action in the law courts or otherwise against any public official or any individual for what they have said about me. All like now, Cappy Greenwich should have paid me significant sums of money. The same Kerry Simmons. But I don't bother with them. I'm not going to put anybody in court in Barbados as long as I can speak, because I have the right of reply. I have the right of reply, and it is when I reply that people seem to have problems. When they're beating up on me, it's fine. David Thompson is to accept it, and as soon as I open my mouth and say something, they can't take it, you're right. And they start to say that I want to carry the debate down in the gutter. On Tuesday in the House, I did not say anything about Clyde Mascoll. I said what Owen Arthur said about him. That he stole the credit union's money and that he should bring it back. The legislation they brought in Parliament was to protect credit unions against directors that carry away their money. You can imagine how they have belittled Mascoll. They brought a man who the Prime Minister said stole money from the credit union and would not pay it back, and told him to introduce that bill in Parliament. You realize what a jackass Mascoll has become in the politics of Barbados? Think about that. The only director that anybody has ever said has carried away money from a credit union is him. And this government brings a law to penalize directors in the event that they do it. There haven't been any before that the Prime Minister thought about, and I therefore said, why are you bringing this amendment? I said the only director I ever heard of that carried away money was the member for St. Michael Northwest. And I didn't believe it when the Prime Minister said it, but I believe it now. I believe it. And I do not believe much that Owen Arthur says, but I believe that. And that is why I'm going to bring a resolution in the House of Assembly on Tuesday that whereas a company registered as a Hardwood Factory was incorporated on November the 2nd, 2006, and whereas the government through the Enterprise Growth Fund Limited has invested $2 million in the said company, and whereas the government has facilitated the operations of the company through the active and direct involvement of ministers, particularly the Minister of State and the Ministry of Finance, and other officials of the government in the operations and advocacy of the company's intended projects, access to the application database of the National Housing Corporation, grant of rent-free accommodation in a Barbados Investment and Development Corporation building at 6 Road St. Philip, facilitating the access to land at various locations throughout the island, the giving of contracts to construct 4 pavilions for the National Sports Council, the giving of contracts to construct houses for the Urban Development Corporation, the indiscriminate and illegal hiring of undocumented non-Barbadian workers. And whereas the company has not been able to meet its financial obligations, and as at August 28, 2007, had issued a number of unsatisfied checks to various entities, including a Department of Government, and whereas the workers of the company have been subjected to acts of sexual abuse and victimization in the workplace and other breaches of labor codes and conventions, and whereas the member for St. Michael Northwest as Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance on October the 10th, 2007, wrote a letter to the Leader of the Opposition stating, what better track record could the company want than someone who supervised the building of 500 houses in 6 months in Grenada in the aftermath of Hurricane Ivan, which statement was untrue. And whereas the Minister of State has, contrary to the conventions of cabinet government and the obligations and duties of a minister, personally involved himself in the sourcing of raw materials for the company, in the daily operations of the company, and may have benefited by way of private projects undertaken by the company on a commercial building. And whereas, despite the serious financial and other abuses in relation to the operations of the company, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance has condoned and supported the unlawful acts of the company and its principals. Be it resolved that this House has no confidence in the Minister of State and that he be relieved of his portfolio.